Welcome to On Par with Maury Povich.
My guest today probably is one of the most important people ever to appear on the old Maury show. Why do I say that? Because the themes that he was involved with still on YouTube and Instagram, millions and millions of viewers watch him deal with the people on my show. Now, what did he do? Well, his name is Gary Coxe. He is probably one of the most important transformational coaches and strategists in the country. And what he did on our show, does everybody remember the woman who was afraid of olives, the woman who was afraid of tinfoil, the woman who was afraid of cotton balls? He was able to confront the big phobia guests and turn them around within the 60 minutes of the show. Gary, welcome. Nice to be
Boy, it's
with
so
you.
good to see you again. This has just been an honor. This is great. How are
Oh,
you?
I'm fine, and now I'm seeing you, and all I do is I reflect on all the shows that we did together, and that are still relevant if you go to YouTube and Instagram and all the social media platforms. I mean, can you
Millions of views,
imagine?
Maury. It's crazy.
Millions and millions of views. But most important for my viewers here and my guests here on Par, Gary Coxe has a story unlike any other, and it's amazing. And by the way, until today, I never knew a large part of this story.
Mm.
So let's get started. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea that you grew up and your whole family was from Jamaica.
I am from Jamaica, born and raised.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, are you an American citizen now or not?
I have dual citizenship.
Isn't it? Oh, wow. So, what was it like growing up in Jamaica?
I tell you, I'm almost emotional about it. It's a totally different lifestyle from anywhere. You can walk down the roads and there's food there and there's waterfalls coming out of the mountains. It was just an incredible, just absolutely unbelievable memories, great place to grow up.
Now, by the way, it was bittersweet growing up in Jamaica,
Yes.
and for lots of reasons. Uh, and I guess we should talk about the tragedy that went on in your family.
My father, when I was a teenager, unfortunately was murdered in Jamaica. And so that was a pretty major thing to happen, of course, in anybody's life, especially when you're young. So that was the bitter part of being in Jamaica.
And also, your whole family was part of the Jehovah's Witness religion. You
Part of
can
my family, yes. I was born, unfortunately, and raised in that cult, yeah, for quite a while.
Now you call that a cult. I mean, some people wouldn't call it. It could call it a religion, but you call it a. Why do you think it's a cult?
My definition of that, Maury, is any organization that you cannot honorably leave. I have a huge problem with that. So that would be Jehovah's Witnesses, Scientology, a gang for that matter. So when I chose to leave, your so-called friends and family shun you for the rest of your life. So you're treated as if you're dead. So that's just not a normal behavior. It's emotional psychology, blackmail to the highest degree.
And so, your family's still part of the Jehovah's Witness, part of
Yeah,
your
I
family.
have my mother and my older brother. Yeah,
Does that mean you don't have contact with your mother?
that is correct. I've spoken to her once, and that was when my brother died. Yeah.
Wow.
And I used to speak to her every single day. I mean, literally every single day until I made that decision. But that's the price you pay for freedom. So,
You also had an you failed in a business venture. You were broke. You had a nice flowing business in Jamaica, and then what happened?
well, the business was here. I was doing over $100,000 a year as a teenager. So this was before my dad was murdered. And then my wife and
What
I
was it? Was in the jewelry business,
in the
wasn't it?
jewelry business. Yeah, in the jewelry business. Yeah. So I was just, I mean, really hit a jackpot. I would sell jewelry to the girls in school. I remember one day, a true story. I got a bunch of money from, from the sales in school, and I didn't want to show it to anybody. I didn't want anybody to see how much money I had, and I didn't know how much money I had. So I snuck into the bathroom, in the bathroom stall, stood up on the toilet so nobody could see what I was doing, pulled the money out, and I counted $400. This was decades ago, and I'm thinking, $400? I made a decision right there to quit school. And that's what I did. I went to the high school principal. I said to him, I got a proposition for you. And here's a proposition. This is when I was in my junior year, Maury. I said to him, look, I know it's not a good goal to quit school, but I'm going to quit unless you do something with me. So here's what I'd like to do. On my senior year in school, I'd like to not show up whatsoever. And then I want to be my own boss, and I'll do my work experience program where I get graded and credit for having a job. In this case, it was my own business for my senior year. Don't want to show up, but I want to walk away at the end of the year with my diploma. And he thought about it for 10 seconds and he said, go for it. And that's how I got my entrepreneurial start.
Wow. And the business grew.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Then I got married. My wife and I, we had a baby. And then she later on tells me it's not mine. So that was the one major tragedy. And then, of course, my father was murdered, as we talked about. And literally like 10 miles from here, my uncle was killed in a plane crash. My grandfather and stepfather died of cancer. And I share this with people to let people know that there's other people out there that have shared similar joys in life as we have, and also similar pains. And I think that's what enables me to do what I do, like what I was able to demonstrate on your show for so many years, because I understand the pain of people, even though I may not have experienced their exact pain. And I also know what it takes to move on and change it very, very quickly, because everything that we've gone through in our life, all the trauma, everybody has something. If we're not careful, it silently makes all of our decisions without us even realizing that we're doing it. How you hire, how you fire, the problems that you have in your relationships. And a lot of times the problems that we have in our relationships, it's really not the problem that we have in the relationship. The problem is between me and me, not me and you. So anytime I go through a problem with someone, after the problem, I think about, okay, how much of that was really me because of the junk that I've been through that may be still stuck in my emotional hard drive, so I can keep working on it and have a better life.
So how do you end up, after all that unfortunate experience in Jamaica, how do you end up as one of the great transformational coaches and strategists?
Well,
how did you get into that?
After the cult, I lost $350,000. It put me in a tailspin that was crazy. I was literally living in my office on the floor on an air mattress. And but before all that, I was able to, like in the jewelry business, I would teach people how to repair jewelry. That's one of the things I did. I worked with fine jewelry. And then I got this concept that things can be done better and faster. Even though you can do it faster, you can do it with the same or better quality. So I learned how to fix gold chains. And usually it would take the average jeweler maybe, 5 to 10 minutes. And I thought about, okay, if it can be done in 5 minutes, could it be done in 4? What about 3? And I literally got to the point that I could fix a gold chain in 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Then I said, wait a minute. And as I started learning concepts and figuring out how to teach faster and better and how our mind worked, I came up with this concept. What if I could take a person, because I'm a pilot, I'm obsessed with aviation. What if I could take a person who's never flown before, and I believe in an hour and a half to 2 hours, I could have that person landing and taking off an airplane entirely on their own with no prior experience, of course, with me legally being in the airplane, managing things. And I was able to do that. And then people started seeing that, wow, this guy's got some unusual strategies or techniques. None of it's hypnosis, by the way. And then that built from one thing to another, and still obviously got to, associate with you and your show and your producers. And we spent a lot of time with your show, and that just kept on spreading. And now what I do more, which is cool, I take this same concept and I use it for speaking engagements. So when companies bring me in for speaking engagements, I'll take somebody from the audience who has a deep phobia or a psychological limitation, and the same process that I use for your show, I would do it live on stage so the audience can watch and see how transformation can be made very, very quickly if you have the right strategies and tools.
In fact, on our show, after we would demonstrate the phobia and the fear that these people have, they would go backstage and they would work with you. I'd say an hour, maybe max.
Max. One show, I'll never forget this one show. Your producers were always pushing me to the limits. They gave me 10, I don't know if you remember this one. They gave me 10 people at one time, Maury, at one time. And it was so cool because I remember like, okay, what I would have like the 10 people over on the wall, if you will. I'd be over here. I'd reprogram one person, bring that person on my side, and before you know it, boom, 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 we had them all. It was really an incredible experience. I'll never forget that one.
So you talk about technique
Yeah.
when you do this. Have you ever been stumped?
I mean, I would have to say yes. I don't know of any particular case. I mean, I don't take, I mean, I don't do a lot of one-on-one anymore, but the standard that I have is after I do an assessment with somebody, and this is what I was able to do with your producers, I would teach them and get involved in the assessment, meaning I'm not going to bring you on and work with you if I don't feel that I can have you get results in one session. So whatever a person has had a challenge for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, if I don't feel by interviewing them and having an assessment with them that I can get them to do what they haven't been able to do in 20 years in one session, I won't even take them on.
We're going to get into these clips, everyone. I mean, this is classic. I mean, this is a classic Maury show theme. Trust me,
Yes.
We're going to have a lot of fun with this. But you mentioned something before we get into it, Gary. You have these slips in your life,
Yeah,
and they're not all good.
correct.
So how do you bounce back?
You know, the first thing I do is figure out where I'm coming from. Everything is a perception. So, you know, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. You will suffer more in your imagination than you will in reality. And the moment something negative happens or you feel something negative is happening, excuse me, if you can stop right away in your tracks and realize, wait a minute, everything I'm experiencing right now is a perception of my thoughts. So that's the first move. It's not because my wife cheated on me. It's not because my father was murdered. Those things instigate it, but I have the ability to learn how to change the perception. It's not just saying, you know, I can't, I can't, I can't. Well, then say you can, you can, you can. Because if I feel that I can't, and if I say I can, but I still feel I can't, then I can't. So the first thing is to figure out, okay, understand what I'm feeling right now is a perception. In fact, when you're excited and ecstatic and happy, you made that up. That's a perception too. Because there's other people going through exactly what you're going through where you're all happy and ecstatic about it, and they're depressed about it. So one of the first things that I do is figure out, okay, what's going on? Where am I creating this emotion from? And then figure out how can I change the perception to either go through it or change it right away. So I'm not immune to it by any stretch of the imagination.
Let me give you a personal experience.
Okay.
And you tell me whether it fits right into what you're talking about.
Yeah.
All my career, when I was younger, the fear of failure was always there. And failure means they're going to fire you. They're going to get fired. And it happened to me. And I was scared to death, right?
Yeah.
So it happens. And now I realize it wasn't the act of getting fired that I was fearful about. The real fear is, how would I feel when I get fired?
Yeah.
And once I realized that I still have my hands, I still have my legs, I'm still alive, and it's over, the act is over, I'm okay. It's you know,
exactly
does that fit right into what you're talking about?
100%, 100%. But now here's the key. The key is that's the new perception, and everybody can find the perception right away. The next step is to believe the new perception or the new story. So the moment you believe it, then you, like you said, I know it's going to be okay. I can look in your face, and you knew that when you say that, you feel it, and that's how you know you bought a belief. For every belief you act on, you get a result. How do you know you bought a belief? When you say it and you feel it. Now, day one, when you started feeling fearful, if you would have given yourself that particular story and I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of that do you really believe, Maury? You'd probably say a 0. Right now, you believe it's a 10. So at least get the story, get the new story, and then the next goal that you're going to focus on, what is it that I need to do to get that belief from a 0 to a 2 to a 5 to an 8 to a 10? Once you buy it, once you say it and feel it, you've got it.
And what happened to me is, okay, I'm fired. I lay down on a couch. I start watching news programs, and I'm saying to myself, I'm as good as these people. I don't know what the hell is going on here. And so I go on and get my next job, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah.
But that it's the fear is how you, not the act. It's how you will feel when
it's a feeling,
because you've worried about this your entire life.
And then, like I said, nothing,
failure.
Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so, and you suffer more in your imagination than you in reality. So often when I go through things like this, I think about, okay, am I picturing this movie going berserk and crazy on me? That's because I'm suffering more in my imagination. I'm making this stuff up and I'm suffering more, but you can also hurt more through your thoughts, and you can also heal more through your thoughts. Nothing will hurt you more than your thoughts, and nothing will heal you more than your thoughts. So if you get that and you're a student of your mind, the things that we're able to accomplish are really amazing.
So is that what you do when we start rolling these phobia tapes with these people in terms of perception?
That's a little bit different. I work with them a little differently. So I can't just, when a person is irrationally phobic, like the cases that you brought me, they can't rationalize and reason. So I can't say to them, the kitty cat's not going to hurt you. Say the kitty cat's not going to hurt you. That's not enough. So I have to go in and I have to change their behavior, their physiology. I have to get them to look at thought process a little differently, but a little deeper and a little faster. So that's how you know that somebody's really irrationally phobic. So when somebody's irrationally phobic, you cannot talk them through this stuff at all. It takes an intervention. That's obviously what we did together.
Okay, so we're going to roll it. This is one of the best themes we have on the Maury Show to this day.
Let's roll that footage.
It's still the present. Trust me. Take a look.
I imagine people still have to come up to you and say, "Hey, what happened?"
Oh yeah,
right?
About every day.
Wow.
The lady with the pickles, the lady with the olives, the lady with this, the lady with that, the cotton balls, all that stuff.
Curious, Maury, do you remember the guy? This guy, I swear to God, he was like 6'4", massive guy, 250 pounds, maybe, afraid of clowns, and he literally ran up the bleachers over the top. You remember that?
Yeah, the clown.
That was crazy.
The clown guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's start rolling it. Here we go. Let's take a look at the first.
She has to come face to face with her worst fear. Frogs.
I do not like frogs, period. My fear is when frogs pee on me, I will turn into a witch with warts on my hands. The nose grows long.
Frogs. It doesn't surprise you that somebody's afraid of frogs.
No, and it's so easy for us to look at these people and laugh. I mean, that's normal for a lot of people. But I guess this is a great concept of understanding everybody has something. And, it may not be a fear of frogs, but maybe you had a divorce or a bankruptcy or substance abuse or something like that. And again, it silently influences all your decisions. So this particular case was somebody who had some major experience, in their life, and they created a negative association to it. And when we talk about how to heal people, one of the reasons that people, when they have these problems, get worse and worse is because my little secret sauce, my magic to this, Maury, it's the nervous system can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. So if that is true, what happens is, we take this lady, for example, who's phobic of frogs. If you say the word frog, her nervous system kicks in, and her nervous system can't tell the difference between imagination and reality, and she relives the experience again, time and time again, and she just continues to dig her emotional grave. So what I do, I use the nervous system as a trick, if you will, and I use that to reprogram how they perceive or how they think about the negative part. So ultimately, all the people that we're going to show today, they all have a negative association to something. We all have negative associations to things. So I don't need to know how she became phobic of a frog. All I need to know is that she has a negative association to this frog. If I can change the association somehow, some way, change happens nearly.
So how it happened to these people? In other words, the experience of happening, you don't care.
I don't have to know. Sometimes it's nice to know, but I do not need to know.
Okay, let's roll it. Let's see it.
What's the matter?
There's no olives.
What?
There's no olives near me.
There are no olives here. There are no olives here. Olives? Why olives?
Because they might be dead people.
I was very intrigued as how somebody can be so phobic of an olive of all things. So what it was either her, I think it was her grandfather died, and back then, when she was a child, they had the wake in the house. And I guess he wasn't, done correctly in the morgue thing or whatever, and his eyeballs would stick out. And in her mind as a young child, that reminded her of olives, and it just totally freaked her out for the rest of her life. So now what happens back to the nervous system, right? In her mind, she connected that to olives. So every single time she sees an olive, nervous system can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. So every time she thinks about her grandfather or sees something that is an olive or looks like an olive, boom, she digs her emotional grave deeper and deeper. And that's how she got so bad. And that's why people get worse in time, not better.
Can you remember what you told her?
I just go through my whole process with her. Yeah, there's no specific words or anything. I just go through the process. I have a 4-step process that I use to reprogram people. So I start them with this process.
All right, do we have the result after you talk to them?
I don't think we have that. I wish we did.
We don't have that. Okay.
We have to do another one time and get.
But it worked. It worked.
Oh yeah,
we brought out the olives.
Yep, the success rate. I don't think we had anybody that could not be reversed on camera that we did your show. I don't recall of one. I know one lady. I remember this one, Maury. This lady was afraid of cats. She fainted twice on your show backstage, and she never gave up. And she came out holding those little kitties.
Now. We don't know, I don't think you know or I do, people who might backslide in terms of the fear.
Yeah, that's normal. You're going to have some of that. So what I do, the difference between, I guess you could say the difference between giving somebody a fish or showing them how to fish. So my job is to show them how it's done. My business model isn't the greatest when I did a lot of this one-on-one, because my job is to get you away from me as fast as possible so you don't have to come back for therapy once a week for the rest of your life, right? So now on your show, I didn't have a lot of time to explain a lot of the processes because, we were, limited by time. But I would say a very, very, very large amount of those people, it stuck with them. In fact, I get responses on social media from like 10, well, more than that, 15, 20 years ago of people sharing their stories on TV that I don't even remember the case. We did that. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how many of those we did with you. I think I did 6 years with you. It was crazy.
Let's do the next one. Here we go.
She's afraid of cotton. Did something happen with the cotton?
It's been like this for as long as I can remember.
You've got to confront your phobia now. This is the famous Maury Show Cotton Ball Man.
I still feel sorry for the intern who had to dress up.
I believe it was this one. I know there was another cotton ball one. Maybe it was this one. All right, the one I remember with the cotton, I believe maybe it was her. She had gotten in an accident as a child and needed a body cast. And again, people just don't wake up one day and I've got a fear of cotton. There's a story behind it. So she was now imagine being in a full body cast. You can't move. So when she had an itch, she couldn't scratch it. So her family member or friend would have to get a clothes hanger and go in through the body cast and try to scratch the itch for her. And as they'd pull the hanger out, they would get the cotton from the inside of the cast. And of course, all she associated with cotton was pain being in a body cast. And after she got out of the body cast, it got worse and worse and worse and worse.
All right, we have one more, I think. Watch this.
You want to own up and tell everybody what you are deathly afraid of?
Aluminum foil.
Peggy, I'm telling you by the... You're going to bring out some aluminum foil and see how you act now.
So it's definitely definitely for TV. The before and after is it's really amazing to watch. That's for sure.
Did you get referrals because of the appearances on the show? Did it help your business?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, and I thank you for this, for inviting me so many times. Years ago when we were airing, there was not a day that I'd go out in public with somebody would recognize me because, you know, it was such a popular show.
It was. I can't forget the woman who was scared of pickles. We bring in about a whole barrel of pickles.
Yes.
So, if you had a chance, Gary, if you had a chance with your transformational strategies,
Yeah.
and you get a call from the White House, can you help this person?
Which person specifically are you speaking of?
There are so
here's
many.
Here's a quick way to answer that for you, Maury. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. And that applies to anybody. So this is why when people come to me in the same line of what you're thinking, if somebody comes to me with a family member or a friend and they're willing to pay for them and that person's not willing to pay, a red flag goes up right away, because that tells me that the parent or the husband or the wife wants the person to change more than maybe the person does. Not to say I won't take the person on, but I have to first go through that hoop to find out, does this person really, really want to make a change? Because if not, you're wasting your time and your money.
So what do you do when CEOs come to you and you go and have these big speaking engagements? Do you talk about perception and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, the Power of Transformation program that I do, Maury, that program is basically designed to show people, look, everybody in the audience here, you all have something happen to you, whether it was your father murdered or, you know, substance abuse, emotional, physical, sexual abuse, whatever it is, and you carry that stuff on with you day to day in your relationships. Also, it affects your bottom line financially. So what if I could show you in 4 steps how to take what you've had in your past, been through therapy for years and years, and learn how to reverse it very, very quickly. And then instead of me telling that, because it bothers me when people say, break through your fears, change the way you think. Well, okay, how? When your father's just been murdered and your wife's been cheating on you with a 15-year-old true story, you know, telling me to change the way I think and move on is one thing, but show me how to do it. So in my presentation, I literally find somebody who's deathly phobic, bring them on stage. They're not canned. I don't even know who the person is till I bring them on stage. And then I go through the process and I show the audience how this is done. And I walk them through step by step by step until that person is totally reversed so they too can use it in their life.
Wow. And you think that you would be able to do this without your own experiences?
That's a good question. I would maybe say yes, and I hesitate saying that because a lot of people would say, Gary, you know, you really have a gift. And I never used to really believe that, but I guess we all have gifts. So I think if I do have a gift, and I guess I have to admit that I do, and I don't want to feel arrogant by saying that, but I do, I guess. But I believe by far this has helped me with what I've been through, have so much compassion for humankind, and more so for my clients, the people that I work with, because I don't care what your pain is. I can feel it. Maybe I haven't been through what you've been through, but I can feel it, and I will cry with you because I know what pain is like, and it is not fun, and the freedom is on the other side.
So whether you could or you couldn't, it helps.
Oh, there's
What you
no
went
question
through.
about it. There's no question about it.
So Gary, we're at the part of the show where we call it the 19th hole. My guests have a chance to ask me anything, and maybe I can answer, but I hope I have perception.
Are you ready for a couple of my questions?
Sure, go ahead.
What would you tell your younger self not to do that you've done as an adult?
Wow. I think more than anything else, because it was a very important part of my life, and I still remember it. I would have done much better in college if I had a chance, because the worst feeling I ever had was when I was kicked out of college in my junior year, and at the University of Pennsylvania, and because I just didn't go to class. What can I tell you? And so my father came to pick me up, and the ride between Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. was the worst, loneliest experience of my life.
Wow.
And I didn't, and my father was so upset. And I would love to have reversed that.
Very interesting. Next question. What was the pivotal thing in your career that happened where you felt that you've arrived or you made it?
Well, believe it or not, for a long time, yeah, I had some, as we talked before about being fired, I had ups and downs and everything else. I tell you, I think when I married my wife, Connie Chung, in 1984, I was a local anchorman in Washington. I had gone back there after a series of ups and downs around the country in Chicago and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Philadelphia. And I went back home to Washington, D.C. And right after I got married, somehow Rupert Murdoch brings me to New York to do this show, A Current Affair. Then the talk. Yes. I think that marrying my wife changed it all for me. And that's when I knew that I had a really good career going on.
I guess,
and I still believe that. I mean, if you just added it all up, it was after I got married that all these big things happened.
Love it. And speaking of Connie, my last question is, Connie is my soulmate, and we've been married for over 40 years, and I'm so delirious that we can wake up together every day. What a blessing. God bless you.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Maury.
Well, I'll tell you, everybody can talk about guest experts and things like that, but quite frankly, Gary, I mean, you're a family member, and I'm really so happy to catch up with you. It's just,
well, likewise.
Thanks so much.
Let's do more of it for sure.
We sure will. Thanks so much, Gary. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Maury.
Gary Coxe, everybody.
If you've had as much fun as I did, make sure you subscribe to On Par with Maury Povich on YouTube and tap that little bell so you don't miss a thing. And if you like to listen on the go, we're on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast. Hit that follow button. I'll be back with more before you know it. On Par with me, Maury Povich, is brought to you by Mopo Productions, A Better Life Media, and Radley Studios, with executive producers, me, Maury Povich, Holly J. Mirabella, and Christian Thompson. Supervising producer Mike Bornasian, and directed by Mark Leibowitz.